Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So as you mentioned, I run a company called Firespotter Labs. We just came up with this product called Uberconference in the back there. We're funded by Google Ventures and Andreessen Horowitz. And I was watching a lot of this yesterday, streaming, and there's some great advice. But, you know, I've actually read a lot of history and been looking at 19th century America. And Theodore Roosevelt in particular, as I've been reading more and more about him, has a lot of startup advice as well. So wanted to go through 10 lessons that Theodore Roosevelt could impart to us. You know, 19th century America was a pretty amazing time. The country went from being East Coast to expanding it across the entire country. There was a gold rush, there was a Civil War, there was transcontinental railroad, there was the beginning of the Panama Canal. I mean, there was amazing stuff being done by people who actually got a lot accomplished in very challenging times, not unlike being at a startup. So as I was going through that, there were a couple things that caught my eye, so I figured just kind of flip through these. Number one, believe you can and you're halfway there. You know, that is basically to me, probably the most important thing for an entrepreneur. You know, running a startup, Bill Maris at Google Ventures likes to say this, but running a startup is a very lonely experience. Even when you're surrounded by people, you know, it's lonely. You've left your job, or you've dropped out of school, or you're coming up with this idea on your own, and you need to convince other people to come join you. You need to convince people to invest in you. And believing in yourself when people are telling you it's a crappy idea, or when people are saying no to your investment, is what's going to sustain you, and it's what's going to let you actually get to the next level. And I know you're all startup people here anyway, so you know this already, but it is one of those things where even when you have a measure of success, you're still the guy who's ultimately responsible for everything. You're lying in bed late at night worrying about a product, worrying about a feature, worrying about a bug, and it's a lonely experience. So that self-belief is really what you need to get to you halfway there. I fully agree with that. You know, have you ever tried to sell something that you didn't fully believe in? You know, it's hard to do. You know, people notice it. VCs for sure notice it. They see pitches all day long. The more you believe in something, the more you believe in yourself, the easier it is to convince other people. The easier it is, and it's always selling. You know, you're selling to employees that you're trying to get to join. You're selling to the press that you're trying to get to write about you. You're selling to partners that you're trying to get excited to work with you. So lesson one, I think Teddy was right. Number two, do what you can with what you have where you are. And you know, this can be taken a couple different ways. One, on the fundraising side, you know, my first CEO job was coming into a company called Dialpad Communications back in 2001. Dialpad had raised $65 million and had managed to spend all of that and more in the first 18 months of its existence. And its strategy was always, we're going to raise another round. Don't worry, we're going to raise another round. Well, October 2001, there wasn't going to be another round. There wasn't going to be another round for a couple of years. And you realize, hey, there's things beyond your control. There's macro forces, like 2008, funding kind of stopped. So plan on being as self-reliant as you can with what you have. And if you don't have anything, figure out how to make progress with nothing. You know, give away equity, get friends to work for you. If you have a little amount of money, make it last. I mean, you read the headlines, and you know, a couple of years ago, it was all about the seed rounds getting too expensive and so much money, and everyone's getting funded, and these caps are so high and out of control. Fast forward 2 years later, and you read articles about Series A being really hard to close. And all these seed-funded companies are having a real challenge. So on the fundraising side, make do with what you have. Don't ever plan that there's just going to be some other pot of gold around the corner. Plan on making it last. Secondly, just on a product side or on a development side, you know, one of the biggest mistakes, I used to be a securities attorney and then was a VC for a little bit. And one of the biggest mistakes that I'd see companies make is their plan to launch was, hey, we're going to go partner with blank, fill in the blank, large, giant company with tons of users. And as soon as we get that partnership done, it's golden for us. You know, even if, first of all, a lot of big companies will bring you in and let you test and start the process, and they have people whose full-time job is to talk to guys like you and to get you in the process and to start testing things. Getting that to actually having it impact your business, getting out of those tests, and so, I used to do Google Voice and Grand Central and Dialpad, which were all voice-related things. So the nirvana was always go work with one of the big carriers, tens of millions of customers. You get in there, golden, you are the guy. Never works out that way. Even if you do make it, they don't promote you the way you want to be promoted. They're not worried. Their commissions aren't based on what happens to you. So I guess it's more self-reliance. Do not depend on anyone else and make what you have last. Lesson number 3. The best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good people to do what he wants done and self-restraint enough to keep from meddling with them while they're doing it, or while they do it. I think you see some advice around the walls here from all these people. One of the things that's a common theme is your team. And yeah, a startup, it depends on you and the vision and the product and the execution, but a lot of that is going to depend on the team you put together. And it's going to depend on the culture you build with that team and the type of people you attract. And one of the biggest temptations in the startup is it's a small company, right? And you know the product inside and out. You lived and breathed it. You thought it up. So there's a temptation to meddle all the time of like, hey, what's going on? Oh, that shouldn't be like this. Or, and you need to be involved because ultimately responsibility lies with you on what the final product is going to be. But let your team work. Let them have the freedom to execute the way they believe in executing. Have check-ins, but let them work. And it's that team and having that culture where people enjoy working there, where people feel that they have the freedom to do stuff. That's what's going to make it attractive to other people to want to come here too. So get good people and let them do their jobs. Number 4, big jobs usually go to the men and women who prove their ability to outgrow small ones. And this to me is super important. At a startup, running a startup, the two biggest things that I care about when you're trying to build a product is 1, having enough money to keep it going, and 2, having enough talent to build and to get what you want done. When you find a person on your team who can actually do, where you can just keep giving them more and more and more stuff, and they keep taking it and taking it and taking it and doing a good job at all of it, that's gold. I mean, that's manna from heaven. And that's something that you really want to encourage. You want to have an environment where people can take more work. I don't want to ever have, a 50, 100-person company where this guy does this little job, this guy does this little job, this guy does this little job. I want to have a company where, in broad strokes, there's responsibilities, and if one guy can do all of it, fantastic. And the other thing is, from the other side of it, when we're recruiting, we're trying to get top talent. You guys are trying to get top talent. Those guys are currently working at a Facebook, a Google, Amazon. You're not going to pay them more. You're not going to give them better benefits. You're not going to have better food. The gym's not going to be as good. There's not going to be a shuttle. You're probably not going to have, who knows, equity, there's an opportunity. That isn't attractive. But what I've found has been a really big attractive piece to get people out of those companies is you give them the opportunity to do big stuff. Give them the opportunity to make a difference. The pitch I give is, do you want to be the 30th guy working on photo sharing in the mobile app piece? Or do you want to be the guy responsible for building our mobile app? And there's a certain type of person who loves that challenge. Even though, yeah, they're going to get paid less. Their benefits are going to be worse. They're going to work harder probably. But having that kind of flexibility and freedom and responsibility to grow and to really deliver a killer product, that's attractive. And so use that as your advantage because, frankly, you can't compete on the other stuff. Lesson number 5. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing, the next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. And particularly in a startup, the way we compete and the way we're effective against big companies is you're faster. You're smarter, not smarter, but you're faster. You have ideas that you're willing to try that may be crazy to big company. You're able to make decisions quickly. You don't need to have a management meeting with 10 different shareholders or stakeholders and to figure out where something lands on a priority list. So use that, be decisive. Your job is as CEOs to set direction, and it's to break ties. Don't let indecisiveness ever permeate the business. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And this goes for, this really is how do you build the culture in your company. A friend of mine teaches leadership at Darden and was telling me how he had dinner with a guy who runs logistics for Amazon. And this is about 18 months ago. And they're having wine, it's getting late, and the guy's phone's blowing up. Texts coming in, emails coming in, and it's about 11 o'clock at night, and it just won't stop. It turns out it's Bezos, who has a bunch of test accounts that no one knows who it's him, and he's trying different things, and he's changing his order, and he's changing shipping, and he's doing all these things, and he's just hitting this guy nonstop with ideas, bugs, suggestions, what have you. And this is a multi-billionaire doing this. This is a guy who's already made it, and he can't stop caring about the product. And when you care about the product that way, it's infectious to the rest of the company. So definitely build that culture by caring. Number 7, it's hard to fail, meaning it hurts to fail, but it's worse never to have tried to succeed. I think all you guys know that. You've left good jobs. You're taking a swing at the fences. And the one that kind of goes with this is, far better is it to dare mighty things than to rank with those poor spirits who live in a gray twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. And the big thing there is to dare to do mighty things. VCs aren't looking for a 20% return. They're looking for a world-changing idea. If you don't believe that you have a possibility to hit a grand slam, you're not going to get a lot of encouragement from that community or from, inspire your employees, inspire potential employees. So dare mighty things. If that's what we're all here for, I think that's why we all left our safe, secure jobs, because we want to do really interesting, mighty things. And you know what? Even if it doesn't work out the first time or ever, having tried, the journey is the reward. So having tried is important. As we're wrapping up here, I pity the creature who does not work at whichever end of the social scale he may regard himself. That's more of a lesson, I don't think more of a lesson to, if you do make it, keep working hard. Why is Bezos up at 11 o'clock at night buying different things and sweating it? When we got acquired by Google, we had our first product review, go into the conference room, and it's Eric, Larry, and Sergey in there who knew about your product, who were asking questions that made sense. And you sit down and you're like, there's about $50 billion of personal wealth on the other side of the table. And they're here worrying about the Google Voice product. And it's impressive. And the journey in the whole process of a startup, I don't think is to win the lottery and end up on a beach. It's to do impressive stuff and to keep doing it. And then it's kind of the final one on that. Never throughout history has a man who lived a life of ease left a name worth remembering. And I fully believe that. So work hard, do amazing stuff. As I'm wrapping up here, believe in yourself, be self-reliant, put a good team together, care, work hard, and success hopefully will follow. If not, at least you had a great journey. Thanks.